Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Quest for Success podcast. Super stoked for this episode. It was a real treat. We had on someone that, I've known since I was 4 or 5 years old. My family's known, hundreds, thousands of kids, athletes, and people around town are going to recognize this name real quick. Zach, I know you and your family have also known this man and have been impacted by him as well. And he just, I think some people don't know his record because he's so humble. He went on to play at Cal Poly Pomona under a legendary coach, and then is going to eventually go to play at Nevada under Coach Chris Ault, the legendary Hall of Famer. Zach, it was a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. This individual, Coach Jim Short, he's going to bring some excitement to this episode. It's electrifying. It's intense. So I encourage you guys to watch it just like all our other guests from beginning, middle to end. He brought chills to me more than one time during this episode. So be ready for it.
Yeah, this is a man that literally, he walks the walk. Everything you guys are going to hear of what he has to say, he doesn't just preach it. He does it. He walks that walk. And, I'm so grateful he brought us in some gifts today, some Spyderco knives. You're also going to see another piece of memorabilia come in here from when he was inducted to the Monache Hall of Fame just a couple years ago. So honored, grateful, and privileged to be able to sit down with this man. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Coach Jim Short to the podcast. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning back in to the Quest for Success podcast. Today, we have a real treat for you guys, Mr. Jim Short. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, Coach Short. It's an honor and a privilege, so thank you.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, so growing up, I think I've known you since I was 4 or 5 years old, wrestling in the Monache program. And my dad, my family always kind of had a lot of respect for you and always tell me, hey, that's someone you look up to. That's someone that you look to. And for you, you didn't always do it with words, but just the way you carried yourself, the things that you did. So thank you for that.
That's very flattering. And if I can just thank you two, Zach and Blaine here. When I walked into Zach's workshop today, or if you will, his new gym, this is the real deal. And I just want to congratulate you for being an entrepreneur, for being a role model for young kids themselves. And I know now that you're in education, Blaine, and that's what we need is young guys like you doing things like this. And you're the future. You're the future.
Thank you.
And I want to tell you, this is not a gym of Porterville. We're not in Kansas anymore when you walk in here. I was impressed. I don't even feel like I'm in Porterville. This is a fantastic establishment, and I might have to join up myself.
It's an orange. It feels like I'm walking to like an Orange County style gym, like I'm going to Newport or Huntington Beach or something. So
absolutely, you guys
you're killing
great.
it, Zach.
You guys are great. I'm the one that's flattered and honored to be here. You guys are great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you here, man. Glad to have you here.
Yeah. So we have a little segment called the Mental Minute, Coach, and the first question is, what is your favorite memory growing up? Just growing up, or just growing up as an athlete? Either one of those. You could.
That's an interesting question. Growing up in Poplar, we went to Pleasant View Elementary School, home of the Falcons, out there, and it's just outside of Poplar in the country, if you will. And they would extend lunchtime, and that's when we practiced or we played. And I just remember playing, man, every single sport. If it volleyball, basketball, when it was basketball season, we were playing basketball. 8-inch softball for boys, regular softball for girls. We had guys like Steve Parr. He was a mentor of mine out there. Tui Moyai, that's a name from around from this area. He had children that went through Monache, good athletes themselves. Just all they want to do is teach and play. And if you can find good coaching or good playing when you're young, man, you're lucky.
Right.
If you get guys to start teaching the basics then. And that's just what I remember was those extended recesses, those extended lunchtimes out at Pleasant View School. Richard Stewart was our principal, and that's all we did was played.
Yeah.
And I loved playing.
Yeah, you were probably that kid, going from recess to the classroom, and you're sweating bullets, but, you're pumped, you know what I mean, just because of whatever it was, dodgeball. That's awesome. I remember those days too, man. That's pretty
And
cool.
no one cared then. You know, and then you get to high school and you can't get kids to break a sweat and pee because they're afraid to go to their next class and not look good. So, you know, we're going to need to break that myth as well, Zach, if we're going to get them going.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, that brings my own memories up, but we'll continue to go. We'll continue to go. So, right, I mean, earlier you were telling me and Blaine, right? You've been a coach for 30 plus years. Mm-hmm. You've also been an athlete yourself. Mm-hmm. Now knowing what you know, what advice would you give your younger self?
Don't change anything and keep going at it harder. Maybe work even harder. I was nothing special. You know, I didn't give God. It had to be God because I didn't give him a lot to work with. So I outwork people and keep do the same thing you did, but only in the sports section I'm talking about here. I mean, I wish I would have applied myself better in the classroom as well. But as far as sports go, hey, Jimmy, keep it up. Don't change a thing. Be a self-starter. Be self-motivated. Learn to train independently. And I think that's the difference, and that's what I would continue to stress to young athletes or myself.
Well said.
Wow. Last question, Coach. I mean, you played, obviously, a storied high school career. You went on to play at Cal Poly Pomona under, you know, a legendary coach there. And you also went to go play at Nevada under Chris Ault, which is, you know, it doesn't get bigger in the college football world than playing for Chris Ault. So, you know, everyone's got this kind of their pregame rituals. Some people are more spiritual or, you know, have these kind of things they did. What were your kind of pregame, I guess, rituals, routines, things like that, pregame and I guess postgame too?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I think about some of that stuff, man, and it really takes me back. Even for practice, I would probably show up 2 hours early. I'm not joking.
I love it.
If practice was at 2 at Nevada, I was there at 12 o'clock getting taped, and it was mandatory taping on your ankles or wrapped. They didn't want you spraining an ankle for no apparent reason, if you will.
Right.
I don't think that's the greatest way to go about it, but this was the early 80s. And then I wrapped my hands, and I wrapped them myself because the trainers didn't know what I wanted. I was always punching as a lineman, you know, in pass pro, and so I wanted my hands wrapped, and because I was always also in face masks, not purposely, but you always punched up. You're punching here. You'd end up in a face mask, and my hands were always cut up, so I taped those. And I didn't like a lot of talk. I don't want to talk to you. I started to get this kind of, I call it big-eyed, and not scared big-eyed like deer in the headlights. I'm talking like
focused
big-eyed. And if we had to ride a bus to the stadium, and I remember Hacksaw Reynolds did this, and I don't know if I copied him, but I put my helmet on, strapped it up, and put my mouthpiece in. If it was an hour trip to the stadium, that's how I rode to the stadium. And I was just, it was business. It's time to get busy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I like that. I remember playing football and stuff like that, not at the level you did by any means, but like just the focus. I was kind of the same way. I didn't like people be laughing and joking around. I hated that.
Yeah.
To me, the whole pregame like routine it's unheard of nowadays. If I'm being honest, kids just show up. I'm here. I am. You know what I mean? But there's so much mental side to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're showing up 2 hours before game time.
They did that the same. You know, kids do that today. Like, let's say I'm practice at 3. Well, they're putting their shoes on at 3, or they're walking in and they're not in a hurry. Or I'll see kids in the locker room because if I'm up there just in my coaching office waiting for them to go out to practice, if I was late, man, you'd bet I was running. I'm carrying my helmet, running. Sorry, coach. They just don't have that. You know, it's a different
priorities.
It's a different priority. Just back to, I used to chew tobacco. I don't chew tobacco anymore. But I used to, I'd after I got all taped up, about 2 hours before practice, I'd go out to the practice field and I'd be sitting there. I'd be chewing tobacco and I would just be going over the day's practice plan. We'd already went over the new plays that we'd put in earlier in the day. And I'd sit there and just chew tobacco and thinking. And I guess I romanticized that, knowing that there was going to be a good happy inning. Yeah. Also getting that mental state ready. First guy show up probably about 30 minutes before practice start. The first guy would show up, then after me, I'd spit my tobacco out and get ready, you know, and just All right,
Game time.
Here we go.
Here we go.
But again, I don't chew tobacco anymore, but I sure enjoyed it back then. It helped me do that get that mental game in. It was that was my alone time. That was me getting ready.
Yeah, you're zoning in.
Yeah,
there's a time and a place.
Absolutely.
Time and a place, and that was it.
Absolutely.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that. I mean, I think Kobe Bryant talks a lot about that. He would do the same thing, and he would. There was a story with Kobe. I think I don't know if it was Jay Williams was telling after he had passed away, and he was saying, one time they were playing each other or something, and it was like warm up the night before they were in town, right? And he was talking about how Jay Williams had been practicing for like an hour or two, shoot around and stuff like that. Or Kobe had it, I think, and then Jay Williams showed up, and man, he just kept going and going and going, and then years later, Jay Williams goes to talk to Kobe and tells, they're talking back and forth, and Kobe tells him, yeah, like I stayed longer than you. That was a mental thing. I'd already beat you.
Yeah.
I'd already beat you. I was going to work longer than you were before the game even started in pregame, the night before the game.
That's a
Absolutely.
mindset. That's just the mindset. You know?
That's why people wake up at 4:00. I got all this stuff done, before anyone else has even woken up yet.
Yeah, people see some things as punishment, others see as an opportunity. That's just what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
I'm just curious. That was your pregame routine. Did you have something after the game as well? Depending on if it was a win or a loss. Like, how did you take that?
I got to tell you, I never cried after games, after a loss. That wasn't, if we'd have been in the Super Bowl, perhaps. For sure. And I even taught my own daughters, I said, we're not going to cry after every soccer game we lose.
Yeah.
If it's the Super Bowl, I'll sit there and bawl with you. But that's not there's just too many games and too many opportunities. So I wasn't a crier after games. I put it behind me, and I knew, you can lose and have a good game.
Sure.
So I tried to take that away. I didn't take the negative. That wasn't what I was gonna encapsulate. I was gonna take the positive away. Hey, I had a great game. We didn't accomplish our goal, but I played well. I kind of left it at that. And I don't think I had a post-game ritual. I remember in high school, though, out in Poplar, I'd sit under that shade tree all beat up.
For sure.
And I'd be all beat up, and I always drink a liter of Orange Crush. The cool thing I will say that did happen in high school is I had a girlfriend, and her name was Darla. And so after the games, I'd take her home, and I'd get home around 10 or 11. I'm not sure exactly. And my dad would wait up for me, and he'd cook me. Usually I'd have some ham sandwiches, maybe an fried egg on it. And he'd always he'd cook me fried potatoes. That's what I love, ham sandwiches and fried potatoes. And we'd sit there and go over the game maybe for an hour or two.
Nice, yeah.
And he'd say, boy, you got knocked down on that one. Or, hey, you didn't do so well on that play. I said, hey, I was okay. I held my own, this and that. But it was funny what he could see in the stands. And he was just a guy. He just supported, but he
Big
wasn't.
supporter.
That's all he did, which I really appreciated as well.
Right.
He just watched.
Right.
Because he didn't have an opportunity. He was a farm worker most of his life. Well,
we keep going back and forth to and mentioning Poplar. For those that don't know Poplar, it's tiny. It's small.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you, you blink and you drive right by it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So what was the whole dynamic like as a child, growing up in that type of town?
Well, people may not know about Poplar, and it's not the good side, but you better know how to fight. If you grew up in Poplar, physically, you better be a fighter, or you're going to get, you better be fast. Zach was fast. I remember Zach in high school.
Yeah, he was.
Or you better be fast, because let me tell you, on that one road, if you go from Cotton Center or Olive to 190, so I guess that's north and south. It's only a mile. There was 5 bars and 1 liquor store.
Oh boy.
There was a lot of drinking. They worked hard, those folks, but there was a lot of drinking and there was a lot of fighting. So I grew up watching people fight. I mean, just getting after it. And so consequently you learn to fight and you learn to pull the trigger. And it's not something I'm proud of, but that's something you had to do.
That was the dynamic of it. Yeah.
And the other dynamic was whatever season it was, we were out on the road playing. And when they say, when they joke now and say, hey, go to that Cadillac and do a button hook, We really said that. You know, hey, that old Ford, get to that old Ford and just sit down right there. I'll hit you.
Yeah.
You know, that's how we played right in the road. When cars came by, we moved off. We went, hey, Jimmy, hey, Mr. Jones. You know, and then we'd start our game
Carry
back
on.
up. And it was always a game. We swam in those irrigation ditches all summer long. And we weren't underfoot. You weren't allowed to stay in the house. So that was kind of the dynamic. Don't get me wrong. We had a great childhood running around, riding our bikes, swimming all summer, never wearing a shirt. If it was football season, we were trying to kick field goals over the wires, you know,
right.
the telephone wires.
Yeah.
If it was basketball season, we were trying to.
Everybody's shoes hanging off the wires.
Yeah. We had our, our bicycle rims for basketball.
Right.
You know, so, but that was good. But we were fighters. I mean, those kids were tough, and those people were tough.
Yeah.
The men and women. You know, there was a Hispanic community, a Filipino community, and I guess you'd call it an Okie community.
Yeah.
You know, they called us Okies, and we just loved each other. Yeah. And it was a very cultural, mixed cultural community, and but those kids and people were tough, man. They went to work sick.
Well, it carried with you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where I got my work ethic, without a doubt.
Nice. I mean, you talk about the Okie community. Like your family came. Did they come from Oklahoma?
Yes, they did.
Oklahoma,
Texas area. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dust Bowl with their parents when they were children, and then they stayed.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you talked about having to be a fighter, having to be tough. What did that kind of do for you? And did that kind of, I mean, you guys were playing sports, obviously, in the road as a kid, but what did that do for you? Did that make you kind of have to be physically tougher, and then did that kind of play into the sports aspect of?
I really think it did. Because, and don't get me wrong, I've seen tough people. Some of the best athletes I've ever seen won't fight you. I mean, if you got in their face, not on the field, I'm talking about off the field, they wouldn't fight you. Right. Now, maybe they have better self-control than I did. I don't know that.
Could be. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know that. But they were animals on the field. But then walk off, they wouldn't fight you. I mean, I've seen that. So I'm not saying that that's something you have to have. You had to be a fighter. That was just my dynamic, and it took me a while. You go with nature, nurture. I always go back to, you can't fight the personality that God put in you. You know, if he made you a fighter, you're going to be a fighter, whether you're fighting for him or whoever, but you're going to be a fighter. And I'll never forget, and I continue to say this, you can't make a kid aggressive. Can you nurture him to be more aggressive? Absolutely, but they're going to become aggressive because that's their personality. I've coached numerous fathers or kids over the years. They grow up, put their kids in it. They were not aggressive, and they're sitting there screaming at their kid, trying to get them to be aggressive. And I'm almost like, like, guys.
Yeah.
There's other sports. There's water polo. There's lots of good, healthy things that you can have your kids in. They don't have to be a football player. They don't have to be a wrestler. Just get them involved.
Yeah, you could be competitive in more than one
Absolutely.
ways.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
You played 3 sports in high school, and kind of
what 3 sports?
I played and this was I played football, I wrestled, and I played baseball. Now I only played baseball through my sophomore year though, because then I started going to the state in wrestling, qualifying for the state, got into weight training more. And you know how, to me, it's like the Godhead: weight training, football, and wrestling. Man, they're like that.
Yeah.
They're like, that's the Godhead to me, man. And baseball didn't fit in as much.
Sure.
I was actually on the varsity as a sophomore, a baseball player.
Okay.
But as a junior and senior, I went and asked my coach. I said, "Can we just say I didn't come out my junior year?" And so I didn't finish that.
Before the podcast, we were talking about Jeff and Steve Brown,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you had kind of talked about growing up. They were kind of doing the thing, and so who kind of inspired you to take the athletics to the next level? Was there someone you were looking up to, kind of growing up, that you wanted to kind of emulate or kind of follow in their footsteps?
Well, when that's all you're doing, and I just lived and I lived athletics and loved playing. I mean, just absolutely loved playing. So, and Jeff had kind of, if you will, he was the front runner. He was a year ahead of us, and he went to Pleasant View out there with us. And so I just kind of followed what he did. Hey, you're going to do this. You're not going to play freshman football. You're going to play soft football because you're better than that. I'm just listening to Jeff.
Yeah.
We didn't get to play Pop Warner because we were too big. Now and then as it goes with, if you will, Steve Brown, right here in Rysick's. It used to be Rysick's shoe store. He had what they called Brown's Motown weight room. It was something like that. I forget, Brown something. And he gave me my start, if you will, in real weight training. I mean, he showed us how to squat. He was a beast.
You know what's just a funny story was the first time I've ever seen 100-pound plates was in his garage.
Oh, yeah.
I was wearing these Air Max shoes, and I didn't know what was on there, but the bare minimum, you had to do 200 pounds. Mm-hmm. Everything on top of that was extra, and I popped my soul in his garage, not knowing anything, but his garage, that whole atmosphere, just different.
Oh, yeah. That whole Brown family really influenced me. Mike Brown, Bill Brown, Steve Brown, and, of course, Jeff. Jeff and I, we're like brothers, if you will, and our old buddy Dusty Stahl, we were like brothers, and we did about everything together, and Jeff just kind of paved the way for us, being a year ahead. Hey, do this. Hey, do that. I'd never wrestled till I got to high school and was not going to go out for wrestling. Mr. Crum said, no, you and Dusty came out and got us, said, no, you guys are going out for wrestling. And I won't lie to you, and I love saying this, I got pinned my first 5 matches. It was not that fun. I didn't know how to wrestle. I was just a big, strong kid that did not know how to wrestle.
The technique.
Exactly.
Right.
And then I learned, and then it made me the football player I was. After that, the wrestling, the combat sport made me the football wrestling inside as a lineman. They didn't know how to handle me because I could use my hands. I could pommel inside. I played small. I played short. I kept my balance. You know what I'm trying to say. I kept my leverage.
Right.
And I was right here all the time. And I knew how to pommel. I knew how to move people. And wrestling taught me that. It made me the football player I was, no doubt about it.
So you wrestled for Drew Williams.
Yes, sir.
And what were some of the things? I mean, I've talked to a lot of guys that you're friends with and have wrestled with, Donnie Townsend, Dennis Townsend, and a lot of those guys, and they always talk about Drew Williams. What were some of the things he kind of taught you in your wrestling career at Monache?
Well, the biggest thing I think is Drew taught the basics, and I've always felt like if you're lucky when you're young, when I say you're lucky when you're a young man, let's say Little League, Babe Ruth, whatever, and you come across a guy like Drew Williams that teaches the basics, then you'll never be exploited because you don't know the basics. You may be whooped because you're not as athletic or not as tough as a person, but I don't want someone exploiting me because I didn't learn the basics. Drew taught the basics. He was a great coach. And I don't know, I think he was a good college wrestler from what I've heard, but he wasn't a great college wrestler, I don't think, but don't quote me on that. But he was a great coach at teaching the basic and teaching young men, and he was just tough.
Yeah.
Kept us tough.
Yeah.
So wrestling, football, Coach Short, that's you, right? So you eventually go on to play college football for Cal Poly.
Yeah.
What made you come to that decision to play for them?
I'll be honest with you, I had a few other offers on the board, and it was no big time. There wasn't SC or UCLA out there courting me, anything like that. Fresno State had looked at me, wanted me to walk on. Wasn't really something I wanted to do. At that time, we had Roman Gabriel came down with an offensive lineman that had played for the Rams. His name was Buck Fowler.
Okay. And
I don't know what level at the Rams, but he was with the Rams for a while, and a big old gentleman. And Walt Kreiner was my offensive line coach when I got there as well, and he went on to win a national championship at Snow Junior College in Utah after I went to Nevada. But I sometimes think I should have stayed and played at PC.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But then I was like, man, I don't know. What if I get hurt? And they were offering me a full ride down at Cal Poly. So I kind of took the first thing that came my way.
Right.
After they dropped the program, of course, then I went and played some real football in Nevada. But I want to say something about Cal Poly Pomona, if you will. We had some great athletes. I'm not joking. They were just an inch short or a second too slow. They were every one of them, if you will, or most of them, first-team all-leaguers, all conference guys, MVP guys, but they just had there was an element or a variable missing that would have put them at SC or UCLA. And I think like myself as well, being only 6 foot tall, 235, I'm not going to play an interior lineman at SC.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that when you said real football? Like, what was the difference between this and that?
Well, we got up to Nevada, man, and we got about 5 guys going to the pros every year.
Okay.
And I'm like, holy smokes. And the size difference, Coach Ault was an established coach at that point. Roman Gabriel was kind of doing a stint, if you will. Hey, I'm going to do some coaching.
Yeah.
He hadn't established himself as a college coach
Right.
yet.
Didn't have that credibility.
And I was looking at some of, not to interrupt, but Roman Gabriel, I mean, very successful NFL career. He was a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Quarterback, 11 or 12
Big
years
guy.
in the NFL.
Yeah.
His coaching stint, though, wasn't, I mean, record-wise wasn't that successful.
No,
but,
not at all.
I kind of want to ask, like, what was it kind of like playing for him? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more than what the record showed. And then eventually, obviously, Pomona closes down. But what was that kind of little stint like with him?
Right. Well, what you may not know, he was also in the movies. He was with starting a couple movies with John Wayne, and he's a big guy. He's about 6'4", and he could still throw the ball when I was there. It was a good experience. There's no doubt about it. But I think that he was too complicated. Our playbook, we were using the Philadelphia playbook. It was that thick. I mean, and it was. The terminology was different, high level. I mean, we caught on, but I think it was just too complicated of a system for us. But, I mean, I wouldn't quote me with that.
Yeah. And, I mean, was it a financial thing that led to the kind of demise and eventual kind of, I guess, shutdown of the Cal Poly Pomona program?
Yeah, it usually is.
Yeah.
If you look around, they're rarely playing junior college football in California. We used to be there used to be tons, if you will, or it was just a plethora of junior college football. There's only not a handful, but 2 handfuls. Wrestling was the same way. They've cut that down, and so and they're definitely an academic institution, and their sister school, Cal Poly San Luis, they continued to play, and they know the value of athletics even at the lower levels.
Yeah. And I'm going to kind of go back to what Zach kind of brought up. I mean, I guess you guys find out that the program's shutting down. So what's that kind of transition like to go and playing real football?
I don't know if you guys are going to believe this or not, but that was interesting. So here comes so then we were a real good. I mean, we had athletes. There was about 10 of us that went Division I.
Sure.
And that was interesting. But like I said, we were all of us were about an inch short or a half second fast or slow, if you will, but there was credentials there. And so it was like I'd spent 2 years at a junior college, if you will. So when they started coming in, so here, when a program drops, man, here comes all these Division I schools, and they're going to see if they can, they got good film on you and this and that, and they're going to see who they can scavenge, and that'll help their program right now. So here comes Arizona, northern Arizona, and there was a few other schools. And all of a sudden, here comes Nevada, and I fly up. They fly me in for a recruiting trip. I was from, here I am in Poplar. I jump on a plane, drive to Fresno. They fly me to Nevada. And it was just all first class, and I looked at the big dudes, and looked at their record, looked at what they've done through their career, coach all of them, and it was great. But I remember Buck Fowler, and he was the guy with the Rams. And Jack Youngblood was there a while, and Buck Fowler and Walt Kreiner, they tell me, they said, you realize they're not going to like you. When you get there, people see you, and like every spring, the JC transfers are coming in to take your spot.
Right.
So don't think you're just going to walk in. He says, you're going to have to fight. So then it just kind of reminded me of Poplar.
Right.
Oh, fight? Big deal.
Old Poplar comes back into
You know,
play.
here comes Poplar
man.
again. Everywhere I'm going, it's like I got to fight. I got to fight you. I guess old Joe Rogan would appreciate that. You know, like, everywhere I went, it was like, so you're going to have to fight. You'll love this one. Oh, probably a year later when everything, the dust settles and this and that. Guy said, why were you such a prick when you came in? You know, like, you didn't have to be like that. And maybe I didn't, but man, I was ready. I was ready for a fight, you know. Okay, let's go, man. Let's go. You know, shove after the play, everybody shoving, you had to show me, I'm not backing down, buddy. I want your spot. Yeah. I didn't come here to set the bench.
That's the type of teammate that you want, though. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
no. It was good, but it was just, I guess I was overboard a little bit, Zach.
Hey, you know what? Different strokes for different folks.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But it paid off, though, because at your time at Nevada, you won a Big Sky championship, right?
Yes, we did.
What was the experience of that? You know, the preparation, the team, the coaches, the whole thing, the whole system. What was that like?
Well, it was organized, number one, and it was structure. Structure, and it was everybody was on the same page, and Coach Ault saw that. You know that he's the epitome of professionalism. You know, I might tear up a little bit here, but just 2 weeks ago, I haven't been there in 30 years. I guess it was 30. Let's see, yeah, approximately 30 years. I was there. I was at Nevada, and I just texted him or emailed him the other day, and he got right back to me that night.
Wow.
I mean, that
gives me chills, man.
That gives me chills, man.
And that's who he is.
Yeah, that's who he is. I'm a part of his life for life, and he's a part of mine for life. And I always thank him for giving a sawed-off runt or a sawed-off guard a scholarship. He gave me an opportunity to get an education. But, yeah, it was just first class. Everybody was on the same page, and that's why we won that Big Sky championship. We had 2,000-yard backs. It was the first it had ever been done in Division I football.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that but that's what I understood.
More or less, though.
Or and you can count, I think, on one hand how many times there was 1,000-yard backs in Division I on, you know, if you will.
Right.
Sure.
It was Anthony Corley and Otto Kelly. And I mean, these dudes.
They run, huh?
They could run, and they were bruisers, man.
Yeah.
They were bruisers.
Everybody knew their role in the team then.
Everybody knew their role.
Yeah.
So you guys were ranked number 2 in the country. Is that? I believe I've seen a picture or something somewhere. The team picture, and it says like number 2 in the country. Mm-hmm. So.
And that was my senior year.
Yeah. And what year was that?
That would have been 85, I guess.
85.
Yeah, okay. 85, and then it turned to 86, and that's when I graduated.
I mean, and I want to kind of have you elaborate just a little bit more on Chris Ault, because, I mean, this guy, if you look at, his vision, look at his background, he invented the pistol offense.
Yes.
He was a visionary, of offenses, and this guy is just legendary in so many ways, not just the wins. I think he had like 3 different stints at Nevada, right?
Oh, yeah.
What other coach have you ever seen that's came back 3 different times to a program?
Well, I have to say, too, it goes back to they couldn't bring anyone in that could win. And I don't think Nevada pays you a whole lot. I'm not going to, like some of these, even Fresno, I think, gives you $1 million to be. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take that job.
Yeah, they're paying Tedford pretty good.
I think that Nevada brags on the fact that they keep their budget real low and they're still successful. So he was the only one that could win, but I'm sorry, I kind of lost thought. My train of thought went there.
So I was just talking about how he came back. I think he had 3 different stints, and just the visionary of Chris Ault and his innovation of the offenses, just incredible.
And I think that too. He was a quarterback in the early. I don't want to age him here, but he was a quarterback at Nevada at one time, and he was just so hard-nosed, so focused. You wouldn't see him out parading around at bars or strip clubs getting himself in trouble. I'm shocked he's not the governor of Nevada. Everybody loved him. Everybody respects him, and he deserves that and earned that. But it was just, he was very innovative. He's a smaller guy like myself. I think that's why he liked me. He called me Shorty. All the linemen was 6'4", and here I am coming in at 6 foot, and he called me Shorty, and he appreciated it. I think we were overachievers. He was an overachiever.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I became.
Yeah. Well, speaking on being a smaller guy, for your specific position, what did you do off the football field to get you to make sure that you're going to be prepared for the football field, the weight training, maybe the diet? What was it that helped you, stay in the game?
I got to tell you, I wish you would have been there. I wish you could have been training me, because that was it for me. I outworked people. I had, I won't say incredible strength. I'm going to say for my size, I couldn't be any stronger. I was a good, strong football player. And it's funny, I'd always lift 3 days a week, even in the season. Heck, we're playing on Saturday. I could lift up to Wednesday, even Thursday sometimes. It ain't gonna bother me at all. And people used to say, well, you just need to maintain during the season. And we used to always joke, maintain? I'm making gains, buddy. That was just, we always had these little flips. You're trying to flip it with your friends.
Sure.
But yeah, it was definitely the falling in love with weight training, my wrestling experience, and I played small. And I was ready to fight you. I mean, not fist fight, but I'm ready to get in a dog fight with you. And I thought of myself as a linebacker. I was a striker. I was not a catcher. I have a hard time watching these big 6'6", 350-pound offensive tackles catch everybody and just turn them. Right. Go hit somebody. Be a striker. I mean, that's just how I felt about it. And that was my mentality of playing football. I'm going to hit you. Right. I'm going to hit you. And then it didn't take me long to figure out, Zach, Blaine, if the linebacker's 4 yards away and I hit him at 3, I'm winning. Right. If he hits me at 1, I've only got out of my stance and I've only created 1 yard, he's winning.
Right.
So if I'm going for a backer, I got to get on him right now.
On his heels.
Yeah, I got to get him. I got to get him on his heels right now. We used to run out of the huddle and I'd look over at our guard. If they were in a 50 defense, that means they had a nose guard and 2 backers over the guards. We'd look at each other and say, race you to the linebacker. And it'd show us, man, we were on a dead sprint to that linebacker who's 5 yards away. So if he only got 1 step on us, buddy, we're winning.
You used your disadvantages to your advantages.
Absolutely.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
During your time at Nevada, what was, I guess, the most memorable moment that you had, or maybe it's moments? Do you have any that kind of pop in mind?
Well, I guess I do. We call them cover girls. Every once in a while, you would end up on the cover of the magazine that week. So we're going to play Boise, and I'm the cover girl, and here I am turning the corner, and there's the running backs right behind us, and so it was a soft corner as I turned. So we're running sweep right, and I get out and I'm gone, and I was quick. I get that corner turn, you can see me. I'm turning up, man. I got him dipping that shoulder, and there's no corner. And the corner's usually hitting me right now because they want to take that lead blocker out. So I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be a good one. Our backside guard, Greg Ray, he gets turned up, so he's on the front side backer, and you can see Johnny Gordon. We call him Johnny Flash Gordon, of course.
Flash.
Johnny Flash, here he comes, boy. And that corner, about the time I turn, he finally comes. He says, "Uh-oh, run!" He was in his back pedal. Here he comes, and he jumps to my outside, and I just get him under the chin with my right hand and run him off onto the track. And it was only a corner, but they were always dodging us or cutting our knees or whatever,
Yeah.
And some of those guys, don't get me wrong, corners. I've had some of my hardest hits have been from corners and free safeties. Boy, they'll knock you out.
Right, they're coming quick.
They're so fast.
Yeah, they're coming hard.
Absolutely. But anyway, I got him just right, and our inside backer, our backside guard, he got turned up on the backer as well, and here comes Johnny, man, right down the sidelines. 98-yard touchdown run against Montana. Yeah, Montana State or Montana.
So what was the actual magazine called, though?
Oh, it's just it's just one they put out, it's
like a player of the week type of thing?
Yeah, no, it's just a program.
It
was just a program.
Did I misread, or did you get like a player of the week type of deal?
I did get the player of the week. I won that honor against, I think it was, might have been that game.
Oh, really?
That caused that, because I was a part of a big run.
Right.
A big run. We had the Hammers Club.
Yeah, that's the one. There you go.
Man, I tell you what, that brings a tear to my eye, and because they'd nominate you if you had a big game. They'd nominate you for the Hammers Club, and then you had 5 games or 3 games to do it again. So you went above and beyond. And if you became a Hammer, and this was offense and defense, believe it or not, I don't think they even let you do it anymore. They'd put a red stripe right down your helmet. And I actually I became a part of that club, and there's probably only 12 on our whole team out of 85. And here I am at 6 foot 235, you know, and or 240, 240. Yeah, I was sometimes 240. And that was a big time honor for me.
That's huge.
That's gotta feel good.
That's huge. Yeah, that's
big
awesome.
time honor for me being a Hammer. Yeah.
That's incredible, man.
So as your time at, I guess, Nevada kind of starts wrapping up there, what were did you have plans? Like, I wanted to go into education. I wanted to continue. I mean, I don't know if it was an option to continue your football career at that point or anything, but what were your kind of vision, your plans going forward from there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in retrospect, you know, there's things I would change that happened. If any time I ever hurt someone, and I'm not talking physically, you know, things happen on the field, but if I ever hurt someone, you know, I would like to change that. I'd like to go back and take that back. I never really wanted to hurt someone, their feelings, you know, or any type of, in relationships. You know, if I was wrong, I wish I could go back and take those back. But when I think back at Nevada, something I might have changed is I might have stayed and been a graduate assistant and really learned. You know, here we got the Hall of Fame Coach Chris Ault as a Hall of Famer. And I do want to have a shout out to Pat Rippey. That he was my offensive line coach. And I want to point out that we're right back to the basics. I get to Reno, we start on a hip progression from our knees and just worked our way up. Here's top-notch guys, and he's got us down starting from the beginning, like stance in wrestling, stance, penetration step. That was Pat Rippey. So I have to give him a shout out. I mean, we were basics, man. But I think if I would have stayed and been a graduate assistant, learned the game a little more, you know, I never really got to be a head coach here in football. And, you know, I know football more than I do wrestling. But wrestling just resonated with me because, again, I didn't have as many. You only need 3 coaches for wrestling. I had 3 friends. I don't have 12 friends, if you will, to help me coach wrestling. I mean, to help me coach football.
Right.
And I trusted those people, Donnie Townsend, Curtis Alkire, Mike Blevins, my dear friend Arthur Demarath. You know, I've had some really good coaches. I don't know if I could have found 12 guys I trust to run a football team. I never really got the opportunity.
So, I mean, eventually you're going to become an educator, right? And
as yourself.
Yeah, I mean, one of the greatest career, and Zach is as well. You know, that's what you do. That you are. I mean, we're educators, whether it's in athletics or
entrepreneur, educator.
Yeah, little. So, I mean, you end up becoming a teacher, educator, coach. What was that transition like from graduating from at Nevada and then eventually getting into
player coach?
You know, coaching and then the classroom.
You know, that didn't. That was interesting. It didn't come as natural. I kind of got out. I got out of college, if you will, came home. My mom came to watch me graduate, flew in, watched me graduate. I was only a graduate of my family. I think she had gone to the 8th grade. I think my dad had finished the 10th, you know, and it was just circumstances, if you will. But so I was ready to get out of there. You know, I'd spent 5 years playing college football. Yeah. I redshirted a year when I first went to Reno. I redshirted, which I'm glad they redshirted me. And then I got an opportunity to start for 2 years. Nice. So I was really proud of that. Or lettered 2 years there, but I think I was kind of going to go into law enforcement. I was thinking about that. I remember my mom, and she knew nothing about education, but she says, "Well, why'd you go to school if you're going to be a sheriff's deputy?" I was like, I never thought about it like that, Mom. I mean, I you know, and I have all the respect in the world for law enforcement, but I got to thinking about it, and then all of a sudden, man, this, if you will, they had this internship out of Fresno Pacific where if you can get a job teaching, then you take night classes, and you're getting your teaching credential, and pretty soon you're a teacher and you're getting paid while you're doing it. And I was like, yeah, I'll try that.
Sounds pretty good, huh?
And so Woodville Elementary. Because, you know, I remember I went to Pleasant View, and we played in that Citrus League. Yeah. Woodville, Rockford, Sunnyside, Strathmore, Terabella. They hired me out there. Mrs. Flannery hired me. And I began my quest, if you will, in education. And I went right into coaching. I was coaching at Burton. I coached many of those guys who were on that 1991 Baseball Valley Championship team. Yes. Rusty Laughlin, Takahashi, my good friend Denny Watson. These guys, I got a chance to coach them in baseball.
How cool.
They're just little 8th graders, and but boy, they were something. I didn't have to coach much, obviously. And then I started doing youth wrestling around, and then I hooked up with Drew Williams. He got me coaching. I started going out and coaching freshman football at Monache. And then I stayed out there at Woodville for 10 years, and then when Drew retired, or if you will, Drew moved into an administrative position, they asked me to come in and take over for him.
And that's when you came to Monache as a PE
full-time.
teacher.
Yeah, full-time.
And everything else.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, with all the experience and knowledge that you've gained being a kid growing up in Poplar, going to playing at the high school, the college, now coach, educator, and the list goes on and on and on and on. What specific advice would you give student athletes, to reach a level of success?
Well, if you're talking strictly athleticism,
let's go athletics and the classroom.
Okay.
And the
if
classroom.
you're talking athleticism, you got to learn to train independently. You got to want to train independently. I don't care how well you play, and you got to do something that sets you above or sets you apart from the others. When I was in high school, I jumped 1,000 rope every night. And I still believe that jumping rope's the best thing you can do for your feet.
You believe right. It's a legitimate
and
exercise.
believe it or not, I became pretty good at it. I mean, I was, and I didn't jump them all at one time. What I did 100 with 2 feet. I did 100 with 1 feet. I did 100 dancing. And I wasn't doing it for conditioning. I was doing it for quickness. And I knew that was going to work. I said, if boxers are doing it, Muhammad Ali's doing it, man, this is legit. And so I caught on to that. So that set me apart. Every kid goes to practice. What are you doing different that's going to set you apart? And the other thing I realized, and I know from my own experiences, my parents didn't tell me, hey, you going to work out tonight? Hey, are you going to jump your rope? I came in, they're busy just coming in, probably getting ready for tomorrow's day of hard work, which they were just hard workers, man. And I went and worked out. I had first set of weights was from Kmart. They're those they're plastic on the outside, cement on the inside. My friend Dusty Stahl and his dad found him some iron weights. So we were always working out. We did a little extra, probably another hour and a half, nothing big time. But that's what sets you apart, and that's what starts to give you confidence. You get confidence by outworking people, by doing things when you don't think they were doing. Of course, I'd romanticize it. Nobody's working out. Everybody's out partying. On the weekends, if we were training on Friday and Saturday, they're out partying. We're running these canals. I'd run on Poplar if the lights weren't burned out, the street lights or shot out. I'd run sprints, about 10 sprints from one telephone pole to the other. It was probably about 50 yards.
You're just looking for hard work somewhere. Yeah,
Exactly.
But
it was a structure and it was consistent, just like making gains in the weight room is. It has to be consistent.
For sure.
So I did it every night.
Consistency always triumphs intensity.
Absolutely.
You know what I love about that? Every guest we've had on has had something similar to say. Tim Vanny, putting the extra work in. Zach Grasmick, getting done with practice with his dad and putting up another 1,000 shots.
Yes.
Rob Haynes, literally right after a game or going through something, going and literally shooting
at the park during
gunshots. At the park, gunshots happening, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
And then yourself growing up in Poplar and going to Monache and putting that extra work in an hour and a half, 2 hours after practice.
Yes.
That's what separates these great people.
I think kids are definitely more at a challenge with social media now because they're more worried about the proper angle than getting the proper, workout in. And I think that's definitely a challenge. But nevertheless, though, it doesn't change the fact that you have to work harder than the guy next to you or girl. And I'm gonna share a story, because you were my PE teacher.
Absolutely.
You were when I first walked into the PE room, and I told you earlier, I walked into that PE room and you were doing overhead tricep extensions with a 70-pound dumbbell. And I didn't know you because I'm from Strathmore. I'm a transfer, right?
Strathmore, I'm Poplar, baby.
You know what I mean? And I walk in and I see this teacher and I'm like, Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this class anymore. But at that time, though, I'm thinking to myself, is like, what's he doing, though? This guy, he's working out in between classes. This was every day, every single day. It is the same. Well, it wasn't the same exercise, but he was doing the same exact thing. And then here you are, just an educator, just a teacher. You know what I mean? But some habits are hard to die, I guess.
They are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But every single day for that entire freshman year, I'd go into PE. There you are. When that bell rang, dumbbell went back to the rack. All right, time to teach. Every day, though, it was just incredible. It was incredible.
Oh, you flatter me.
You know, so it was definitely, it's something that still sinks in me.
Well, you know, I loved working out. I still love working out. You should see, I call them my old man workouts now, and you're going to be the same way. It's been such a part of our life for so long. You know, I don't get that. I don't work hard enough hardly. I'm like, come on, endorphins. You know, where are you? You know, I'll be 59 next month. But I still love working out, and always injured. You know, something's always hurting me, and you just modify.
Right.
Yeah.
You can modify any workout.
Exactly.
And maybe I don't stay in the gym for an hour anymore, hour and a half. I mean, maybe I'm only in there for 30 minutes, but I'm trying to set up something where I'm moving and breathing hard for 30 minutes. And I hope I can do that when I'm 80, man, if I'm still on God's green earth.
Yeah, and that goes back to the original question, you know, what advice would you give? Just find a way and work.
Absolutely.
Just find a way and make it happen. You know what I mean? Whatever cards are dealt in your hand, make it happen.
And once you learn how to do it, your parents can't tell you all the time. Your coach can't be the one telling you. It's got to come from in here, and that goes back to what God put in you. You know, my daughter, Bryn, my youngest daughter, she was valedictorian, and a 4-time Valley placer in swimming. All my girls were pretty athletic, to be perfectly honest. I mean, they were just, but same thing. They'd come in crying at home, and Dad sends you in? Yeah. Because I'm like, you're wasting my time. You're wasting my time. And it probably wasn't the right thing to do, and I had to change and evolve, and you learn. But we couldn't have kept up with her schoolwork if she didn't have it in her to become the valedictorian. And she was in club volleyball. She was MVP of the volleyball, set the record for Kiel, still has it at Monache, thanks to Rosie Quinanne, one of the best volleyball coaches in the Valley. But, you know, that wouldn't have happened if she didn't stay with it. So if you're counting on your parents to set your alarm for you or to tell you to get out there, to me, you don't really love it.
You're going to come short.
You didn't have to tell me. I didn't have to tell her because we couldn't have stayed up with it. It's good for parents. Don't get me wrong, parents. Always ask your kid, what do you got tonight? Keep them organized. No. But at some point, she took over that, you know, and that's why she accomplished it. I don't think you can accomplish the things that you set out to do, or I don't think you meet your potential. I don't even really like that word potential.
I don't either, yeah.
Your capabilities or your God-given talent.
It's almost an insult.
I know.
It's almost an insult.
But if you're not the one that's the driving force,
right?
If you're not the one that's ahead, if you're not that self-motivator, I don't think you make it to the pinnacle.
I agree.
I don't really.
Yeah.
Hey, come on, man. You know, your trainer has to drag you to the gym, kicking and screaming. That's not the one, man.
Yeah. You got to be beating the gym door down, you know, trying to get in the gym.
So.
And
until Zach finally gives you a key to the place.
Something like that.
You know what I mean?
So, Coach, you know, you've done a lot in your life. You have a lot to be proud of. And I'll get to that in just a second. But what gives you the most joy today? Like, you know, whether it's education, whether it's family, what gives you the most joy and kind of keeps you getting up and keeps you striving every day?
Well, that's a tough one. You know, you always think you know your values or you know this until they ask you to state them.
Right.
You know, then it's like,
right.
But I think my faith, you know, I think knowing that God's got something out there, God's got a plan for me. Like I said, man, it had to be God because I didn't give him much to work with. You know, and I was going to tell you guys, if I'm on your 4th episode, you're already scraping the barrel because, you know, I just never saw myself as anything special. Felt I was as good as anyone, and I was never a doormat, but I never thought I was better than anyone either, and that's just how I was raised. But I think it's my faith, it's my God. Now it's my family. You know, you get lucky, you find a wonderful woman, you know, like my wife Quinanne. You have 3 great daughters, Devin, Zander, Bryn, my nephew Marlon. I raised him. I love that kid. He's my son, no doubt about it. And then just not knowing where he's going to lead you, not knowing what to expect. I guess that's what gets me up. I still cry watching the underdog come from behind to win.
Yeah.
Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy, Secretariat, Seabiscuit boy, things like that. Watching the underdog, watching kids outperform their capabilities because they were in the right spot and they had good men around them, good women around them. Yeah. I guess that would be it. And just kind of looking forward toward the next chapter. I'm here, we're getting close to retirement. Hopefully I'll do something cool. I don't know what it's going to be. But, Zach, I just want to come work out in the morning,
That's what I mean.
I really enjoy that.
Habits they're just habits, man.
Which I'm going to have to pick your brain because I got a couple of alien parts I'm going to need. No, really. I've stolen things from him. I've only seen him in the gym 4 or 5 times when he would be in our room teaching an AJ like a good coach. Oh, that's the other thing, just real quick. I got to throw this out. I was never thought I knew it all. If I didn't know something, I'd say I didn't know. And I'd go to the source, For example, if I didn't know something about wrestling, I'd go to Tim Vanny. He's the ambassador. Yeah. If I didn't know something, if I've forgotten something about weight training, I'll come to Zach. I've stolen several things from Zach, and I've only seen him in the weight room, in our weight room, coaching Monache's baseball team because AJ's smart enough to let him.
Yeah.
If you know something, come teach my kids. That's what I always said.
Right. But it's you didn't have any pride or ego.
No.
Pride or ego will literally take you off course.
Yes.
Of whatever quest that you're on. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get you a shirt, man. It's going to be faith and hard work. And you're going to walk around in it. That's what I get from you, man.
Buddy,
faith and hard work.
I'll tell you, I'll wear that, baby. And another thing, too, just real quick, there's so much testosterone in football, man. I never got an opportunity to be a football coach in this town because the people that were coaching, and I'm not naming anyone, they didn't accept, they didn't want anybody that knew more than them around them. And now it's not that way. I'm not saying that's that way now, and I'm not saying it, and maybe that's my delusion.
Uh-huh.
But I just always felt like I never got an opportunity to coach in this town as a football coach. The thing that I really knew, and when I really knew it, when I was young, no one really wanted it.
Right.
And I bet you'll find that in a lot of places.
It's not just this. I mean, that's everything. You know what I mean? It's how would you put it? It's like it could be a mindset thing,
mm-hmm.
where if you want something done right, even if it isn't necessarily right, you just do it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying for some reason, I guess, my path never led to being a full-time or a head coach in football.
But it led you to other things, right? Other opportunities.
Absolutely.
And for, like being a man of faith, I think maybe it's just how things worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was for the best, right?
Right. Probably was.
Yeah.
Probably was.
Speaking of all the things it might have led you to, sitting here, what can you tell us are some of the things that you are most proudest of accomplishing till this day? It could be for whatever, a father, it could be an athlete, it could be a teacher, it could be the coach. What are some of the things that you're most proud of?
It's funny, you would ask, man, it's all good. Anytime you spent working with a kid, it's all good.
Yeah.
So, I really can't hardly pick one, but I'll throw a few out. My team won a sportsmanship award one time. We expected Donnie Townsend, Arthur Demarath, myself, Mike Blevins. We expected you kids to act like gentlemen off the mat.
Right.
I expect you to be an animal on the mat.
Right.
Within the rules. But I expect you walk off, buddy, you be respectful. And one time, at the Doc B, our team won the sportsmanship award. I don't know if that means you didn't win a lot and you or what. It's kind of it's funny, but we won the sportsmanship award. I was proud of that.
Right.
One time we got it from McDonald's. We don't even eat McDonald's anymore. This was the old days. Now we pack our kids, we meal prep for our athletes.
Okay.
But this is in the old days, and you just went to eat.
Mm-hmm.
We took our kids to McDonald's, and boy, we watched them, made sure they clean up after themselves, or we'd go pick it up ourselves. If you will, clean their tables. And this old couple came up to us and said, those are some of the nicest young men we've ever seen. We had a room full. That sticks.
That's
being lucky enough to coach the Monache's first state champion ever. Drew can outcoach me, Coach Drew Williams, 1,000-1. But I had the first. I coached the first state champion. Arthur coached the second. So that was really that was a big deal. Watching my girls compete, watching what I'd taught them. Let your game do your talking, and I don't believe in all that. And a lot of people are great at it. And I saw a lot of that at Nevada, people talking, but I believe in letting your game do your talking. I always have, always will. Humility, things like that. And of course, being, finding the greatest woman ever and getting married and having those 3 children and raising my nephew, those are always top of my list.
right.
Yeah. No, and I know I said it before, Coach. I mean, you just everything. And I all your kids, Devin, Zander, Bryn. I think I used to wrestle Zander when we were like 7, 8 years old. But just as a kid, my dad always instilled in me, like, just, hey, man, he's a good guy all the time. And even when I wrestled all those years, you didn't have to say, you walked it. You walked the walk. You didn't have to talk the talk. You walked the walk. And us young kids seen that, right? And especially in retrospect now and through high school, just the way you carried yourself, always very humble.
Thank you.
You didn't have to say much, but you were the role model. You embodied that. You walked the walk.
Well,
So I appreciate that.
Well,
Agreed.
both your parents are cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
And I mean that. Both your parents are cut from the same cloth. I see you guys are cut from that cloth. You guys are going to be way better than me. You're going to do great things. Like I said, this gym is fantastic. I don't even feel like I'm in Porterville. I've got compliments from you as an educator. My brother has his kid in your class, says you're nothing but a role model. And that, that's what.
Appreciate that.
It's your time. It's your time, man. I'm fading away. No, I always said I'll never fade away. I'll burn out, because I'll burn out. So I'm burning out, and it's your guys' time.
Well, I appreciate that.
I appreciate you guys.
So
I really do.
No stone left unturned for you.
Man, I hope.
Yeah.
I sure hope.
I gotta thank you, Coach. Brought some gifts in for us today. Some Spyderco knives. So we appreciate that.
That's from my personal collection.
Man, that's what an honor, right, Zach?
Well, you guys are doing so much. You guys need something.
Well, it's just just to be able to spend time with you and you take the time out of your Sunday to come talk to us, man.
Yeah.
That's.
And did you see that? Did you happen to mention that tribute that John Alkire made for me?
Yeah. So, and I'll let you kind of talk about it. It's really heavy. If you're
It's
if
heavy.
I
you're
thought it was
watching,
magnetized. I couldn't get it off the table, and then I realized that thing probably weighs about 50 pounds.
I give or take,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
So John Alkire brought that to me, and I cried like a baby. John Alkire is salt of the earth. If you guys don't know him, he's ran the Fresno Fair, the Paso Robles Fair, the Tulare Fair. He's sought out all over as if you will, a promoter of fairs and businessman. And he's just something special to me. He's a mentor of mine. He's like a father to me. And he brought that to me. That's made from old tractor parts. And he recycled them. He brought that to me as a tribute for my coaching and then for helping his son, who's also a great athlete, Curtis Alkire. And I can't say enough about John, and I really appreciate that. And I only brought it because it's so unique, and that may be the best gift I've ever got, besides the fact that kids grow up and be the types of citizens they can be.
Yeah, it's got the little Wolfpack decal on the back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's just some creativity right there, that's for sure, and craftsman, without a doubt.
Yeah, if you guys get a chance, you might want to get old John on your show, because he's a top-notch businessman. He's a winner, and he's successful.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and then Curtis was a Hall of Famer, Monache Hall of Famer
Absolutely.
with you as well.
Absolutely. Salt of the earth, both of them. The whole family, salt of the earth.
So, Coach, we talked about at the beginning. I did not forget. So, you have a few pieces that you kind of wanted to share with us today. So, if you want to,
if you don't mind,
no, we'd love.
So, 20 years ago, or maybe even longer. I mean, I'm in my 30s. You know, I'm still passionate about the things that I was doing. I started writing things down. I'd give them a title and just start writing my feelings. And so I don't want you to think that this is cut in stone or anything, and certainly times have changed. It's not, it's not as good as the Constitution. I don't think it's weathered the years that many, but I thought to myself, maybe I could read some of those to you and get your thoughts on them.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd see it. Man, what a pleasure.
Just a second. Since we're speaking about success and champions, and again, I never thought much of myself other than, I'm glad that God put a strong work ethic in my heart. You know, I don't feel like I'm anything special at all, and that's why I'm always apprehensive about talking about myself. But let's start out here with champions. This is what I wrote about champions, and I wrote this at about 20 years ago. I said, you don't become a champion by accident. Champions have passion for their sport. Champions exude passion. They're zealous, even sometimes fanatical. Champions don't believe in status quo. They're busy getting better every day. Champions set goals and have a plan to achieve their goals. Champions find activities they love, pour their hearts into them, and reach their God-given potential. Champions rarely use the word fun when speaking of their sport. However, they do say it's rewarding when all the blood, sweat, and tears materialize into victories. No, people don't become champions by accident.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's you wrote this, word to word. This is you 20 plus years ago.
Says author Jim Short.
Publish it. Let's go.
Now, of course, remember, everything's stolen. There's not an original thought since Socrates, but I'm just saying that was my thoughts on champions. How do you guys feel about that?
I think I might hang that on my wall. I like that. That's incredible. Here you go. That's impressive.
That one's yours. I got another copy.
You know what I love about that? It's
wow.
You wrote that 30 years ago, and those pieces could not be more true today. And for athletes, if they want to be successful and be a champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
You know, there's one specific word you mentioned in here. And I may get, criticized for this, but
That's
it is what it is. You know, the word fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to make sure you're having fun. You got to make sure the kids are having fun. The other day, I was criticized on one of my videos. I showed him my son. My son's 7 years old, right? We have a phenomenal relationship. I mean, he was just helping us right now set up all this with me and Blaine. He loves doing this.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I get him in here, and he's working out and stuff like that. And I get a comment that says, man, this is great, but you also got to understand you need to relax and make sure that he's having fun. And, this was a video where I'm encouraging him. I'm setting things in front of him so that the fun part comes when it is accomplished. That's fun.
Yeah.
Accomplishing a goal is fun.
Absolutely.
Sitting on the bench is not fun. Getting no playing time is not fun. So when somebody usually comes to me and says, make sure you're having fun, I always ask, well, what's your definition of having fun? Because mine might be different than yours, but that particular word always makes me, hesitant on what somebody might think of it, exactly what somebody might think of it. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that right there, I'm telling you, this is going on my wall. I'm going to get Micah to put this in a wrap and hang it somewhere. This is awesome.
Well, again, flattery will get you everywhere, but,
Yeah.
and touching on that, I believe in fun.
Absolutely.
I'm all about
yes,
fun.
Of course.
And you know what's funny? I used to even tell them when I was coaching, you want to have fun? Well, let's stop practice. I'll give you 10. Let's have some fun. I'm all about fun, but there's a certain amount of work that has to be done all the time to reach those pinnacles. And if you will,
continue. Yes.
I actually have one here. No, this is funny. I'm no author, no big time writer. My wife usually has to look over my work.
Right.
We're PE guys, but I got one that says fun versus rewarding.
Hey, your work begs to differ about the writer part. I think you claim the writer part at this point.
Hey, listen to this one. and this comes from kids constantly quitting me, or
Sure.
I can't tell you how many kids I've lost when I was coaching to girlfriends, a car, or a job. Honest to God, truth.
Yeah.
Here we are. We think you're going someplace. I think this kid, I guess it's like a relationship. You think you're doing well, and your wife comes in and says, "I want a divorce," and you think everything's fine. My wife says, "Hey, that's why we got to be." Well, that's kind of I'm off a little bit here, but you know what I'm trying to say. You got to be in the moment and take care of everything and be a good husband, a good father all the time.
Present.
But I used to get. I thought everything's going well, and a kid comes up and quits me that day, starting 113 pounder, whatever. I'm like, what? You were Valley champ last year. I mean, honest to God, things like that have happened. So speaking of that, this is fun versus rewarding. It says, it's just not fun anymore. I hear athlete after athlete tell their coaches. One might think, when was it ever fun? In my opinion, competitive athletics are rewarding. When you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into something, sacrificed hours of your time, and then and then everything comes together and you fulfill your goal, that's not fun. It's rewarding. It's satisfying. It's fulfilling. Shame on those elementary grade teachers that say, it's okay to lose as long as you have fun. Or it's not whether you win or lose, but how you play the game. Personally, I've never had fun and got my ass kicked. I've never had fun and got my ass kicked. I think I coined that phrase because I've just never had fun doing that. And I only know one way to play, and that's play to win. Win at all cost? Absolutely not. Fair, square, by the rules. But yes, we've trained to win. Now let's win. Should we teach kids to win with humility and lose with dignity? Certainly. There should be no other way. I also feel that a person should have a competitive sport and a recreational sport. I've told kids this all my life. You have fun in your recreational sport. You play to win your competitive sport. Can a person play well and still lose? Sure. Part of competitive athletics is learning that losing is a part of the game, but you shouldn't like it. I like the phrase, he was better than me today. They were better than us today. If you want to play for fun, find a recreational sport. If you want to play for real, find a competitive sport you love. Pour your heart into it and make no excuses, win or lose. Now that's rewarding.
Wow. That's funny how all that just worked in right now.
But
that's incredible.
That's just me thinking, like they give me something. People are talking about subject. Joe Rogan, he's always got the cool stuff on. You guys got the cool stuff on now. I was so impressed after some of the stuff I've seen you guys do already. I'm like, these guys are freaking geniuses.
Oh, I don't know about that. It's giving us too much credit.
So you get something in your mind, and when you're passionate about it, if it's 4 a.m., if it's 2 a.m., get up and write it down. Right. And that's just some of the stuff I did. I don't know if I want to bore you with any more of this, but
you ain't boring me, man.
I'd like to get one more.
Yeah, let's get one more. Let's get one more.
Yeah.
One more.
Man, what a treat.
Let me see here.
Champions.
Well, price tag's good because, I see price tag.
Oh, so champions prize. What was the other one?
The other one's fun versus rewarding.
Fun versus rewarding.
I'm going to get a copy of these.
I got it. I'm giving them to him. Price tag's pretty good. It's a little spiritual, but isn't life like this? To me, epitomizes life. Sports is life. Teaching sports is
weight
life. Weight room. This is all life. But this one says it's entitled price tag. One of the statements that I've spoken to all my athletes for years that there's a price tag on everything. The question then becomes, am I willing to pay it? Are you willing to pay it? Because there's a price tag on it. For example, if I want to be a state champion, I simply turn over the price tag, just like I was looking at a shirt, and find out what it's going to cost me. How about a lawyer, doctor, or engineer? Ultimately, everything worth having comes with a price. Even my salvation, although free to me, cost Jesus his life. We usually equate a price tag with a monetary value. However, in the sports world, it comes down to hard work, dedication, self-satisfaction, and blood, sweat, and tears. It seems to be easy to find an athlete that will say he wants to be a champion. And that's another one. Just ask, who wants to be a champion? Everybody will raise their hand. And that's where I got into the prize tag. But to find one that will pay the price is a rarity.
Okay.
There you go.
Since the podcast started with chills, it continued, and it's going to end with them. I mean, that's powerful stuff.
That's
man.
when I was passionate.
That's powerful.
You start to lose that at 59, man. I don't want to. I mean, you don't lose it, but you just have no way to show it.
Have you ever expressed these to anybody else? Maybe your kids or something?
Oh, all my daughters have had to put up with dad's stuff, you know what I mean.
Are we special here? Because, man, this is gold.
As far as I'm concerned, because
I appreciate it.
Because you're passing on the message.
Thank
Your
you.
messages are better than mine, but write this stuff down so you don't forget. That's why I kind of started doing this.
I mean, I love the champion one, but this price tag one,
So
it's sacrifice.
The first one out of here, do you remember what was the first one you wrote down? Do you remember in order, kind of?
I think it would have been the champions.
What year was that? And around what year was that, you think?
So I was in my 30s, so it was probably in the 90s, late 90s, I think. And I just, I was wondering if some of the stuff would. And then I started watching new coaches come on, and that started bugging me, watching what they were doing and how they were talking and
philosophies and stuff like that.
And so I kind of got a little coaching stuff here too. I might throw out if you want to hear a little of that.
Yeah.
No, well, absolutely. I mean,
100%.
And remember, if I offend anyone, I apologize, because my way's not necessarily the right ways, and there are more than one ways to skin a cat.
right.
Yeah.
We're talking about what I did and what I felt. If I ever, like I said, the only things that I regret was when I've hurt someone. If I've hurt someone, I want to apologize for that and wish I wouldn't have.
Yeah, well, this is your story. This is your story, and we're just helping it.
Yep.
We're just trying to help
But
tell
when I
it.
look at this, the passion. So here's some coaching management tips. I said, never allow a power struggle with an athlete. It's not a democracy. You're a competent, consistent, ethical adult. Run your team. These are all just bullet notes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha.
I said, encourage, inspire, praise. Coach every day with zealousness and high energy, and your team will feed off this. No foul language, period. I challenge anyone to show me the beneficial effects of foul or derogatory language when used in sporting events, especially where kids are involved. Your team will portray your character. If you're a whiner, your team will whine. If you're an excuse maker, your team will make excuses. If you're hard-nosed, positive, and stable in tough situations, your team will be also. Referees should never have to reprimand your team. This is your responsibility during the game and at every practice. It's sometimes tough, just like parenting. Remember, we're teaching life lessons. It may hurt. Foul language, excuse making, and these are probably coming from the players or the coaches. Foul language, excuse making, arguing calls, deflecting responsibility is usually a result of frustration. At this point, your team's probably being outplayed, you're being outcoached, and you're being outcoached. Learn to refocus your team and make positive adjustments. Your players will come to depend on you for this, and eventually will get the message and internalize it. Mission accomplished. Teach your players to let their game do their talking. This is self-explanatory.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Teach your captains how to lead. Some are natural leaders, some are not. If they don't conduct themselves properly, strip them of their captainship. Taking away privileges and honors are great life lessons.
Okay.
I've actually stripped captains of their captainship while I was coaching for various reasons. And I'll go on and tell on myself, my senior year, I thought I was going to be the captain at the University of Nevada. Honest to God, I thought I was going to be named captain. Man, would that have been an honor. I had went out earlier at a frat, and me and a bunch of our guys, and we got in a brawl. We got in a brawl with the frat. And I got called in, and I was speaking to Coach Ault and this and that, and it was serious business.
Right.
And it was just kids being kids, but nonetheless, we took responsibility for it. And I'm not sure to this day that someone might have changed the vote, because everybody on the team said, man, you had a great spring. We're voting for you to be our captain. Mm-hmm. But when it came right down to it, there's this Christian kid named Greg Reagan. I mean, he was Greg Ray. All-American, love the guy, still love him. He played left guard, I played right. If it comes right down to it, who would you want? A kid that goes out and gets in a brawl, or this great Christian kid that walked the line 24/7? And that was Greg Ray. And Greg Ray ended up captain, and he deserved it. So when I look back, that I can understand why they chose Greg Ray.
Sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't deserve it then. I went and ruined that aspect of or the trust that I'd earned with those coaches. And I respect that about them.
Yeah, and those type of things need to be said, because one mistake.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
and I got lucky, and they gave me another one.
You know what's crazy? It's like, I think for a lot of us, any of us, it's literally one bad decision, whether it's being a kid or whether it's in high school or whether it's after high school. Someone goes and has a drink and gets in a car and drives.
Oh, yeah.
One bad decision could change not just your life, but other people's lives around you, for the rest of their lives.
Many reasons.
Absolutely.
So it's just one decision. So you always got to kind of be thinking about those things. And it's not always about you, right?
Absolutely.
It's always about you.
It never is.
And so sometimes today I feel like, whether it's athletes or even kids we teach, it's me. It's not always about you.
I agree. And and in retrospect, who would I have chosen? The kid out getting in a brawl with a frat, or a kid who walks the line every day, and Greg Ray was an epitome of a good teammate and everything else. And I did have a good spring, but Greg deserved that. And I think the coaches made the right decision, and it was a good life lesson for me. Boy, wouldn't I like to have that feather in my cap.
Right.
I would have loved to have been the captain.
Yeah.
But I didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
I didn't carry myself appropriately.
I'm sure, and like you said, you had the humility to kind of own up to it, and you learn from those failures. You learn more from the failures and the mistakes than you do the wins and the successes a lot of times.
Yeah. I mean, any student athlete or anybody in general listening to this right now, take note of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, take note.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Life's too
Self-included.
short.
As long as you reflect on it, right?
Yeah,
some people
absolutely.
keep making mistakes after mistake.
Yeah.
That's
a choice now. That becomes a choice, not a mistake after the first time.
Oh, good point. That's very well said. Very well said.
But these things are, thank you. This type of stuff right
I
here.
appreciate
you know
it.
what I mean?
I appreciate you, giving me a audience for this, if you will. I wrote a couple things, a little practice plan. I said, if athletes are late, send them home and instruct them to show up tomorrow when they're ready to be successful. I can't stand starting a practice late. I won't go into church if I'm late. Forget it, man. I'll be there on time.
It's respect.
It's respect.
Yeah.
Things like that. But only if there was extenuating circumstances.
Sure. Yeah.
But kids that just show up late, dude, I used to catch them at the door. I'll see you tomorrow when you can show up on time and you're ready to be successful.
Yeah.
And part of that has to do with what you went through, right? Because you saw and you benefited from doing that act. 2 hours early, to be specific. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And you just want to hopefully instill those quality traits in them because you understand what good that could come from doing that. So I those simple, not necessarily easy things to do for student athletes,
absolutely
they pay
not.
off though. They pay off. Yeah.
You're having a practice and kids are lollygagging or they're not going at speed. I keep encouraging them to do that. I sent the state champion home many times. Hey, bud, why don't you take it in today and let's do this again tomorrow? Because it just I wrote a little thing on how that just brings down brings the practice down when kids aren't going at speed. How do you expect to go at speed if you won't practice at speed?
Right.
And I'll probably be criticized for this, not because it's immoral or unethical, but these coaches that let's just we'll go on a quick whistle. They got bags out. Let's go a quick whistle. What are you teaching blowing the whistle early? Playing your football, but we got to finish, man.
Yeah.
I got to finish. We've already got pads. I mean, you're holding bags, so that's going to protect you, but I got to finish the play. Okay, on 3, walk to your position. Okay, that's fine, but then come back and run at full speed. And I used to get into this, like step on a crack, it's bad luck. I used to get this thing. I really believed if I didn't have good practices, I was going to play poorly. And I can remember they'd be holding bags, and just because we had bags, people thought it was a day off.
Right. Yeah.
I'll knock you down. You're holding the bag, I'd knock you down.
Yeah.
I'll never forget this kid looks at me. I'm walking back to the huddle. We're at Nevada. He says, Short, why do you always have to be a practice All-American? And I turned on him and I said, so I can be one on Saturday. And I never made it as an All-American, but that was my mentality, man. I knew I had to do everything right in practice if I was gonna have a chance in the game. Being an undersized lineman.
Right. You know, I heard and I forget the guy's name. It was on Twitter or something, and he's a football coach down in San Diego, and he said, I always hated the term don't be last. Don't be last. He's all, because you're teaching everyone else you just got to beat the slowest kid. He's all, let's teach our kids be first, compete to be first, because then everyone's competing. Don't tell your kids, hey, don't be last. I mean, I remember hearing it from those coaches, whether it's coming up, being young, and I didn't think too much about it, but when he said, I was like, he's right.
It makes sense.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, Michael Jordan always said, people always thought I was crazy or lying because I took practice more seriously than the games.
Oh,
the games are meant for that,
yes.
Quote unquote fun. You know what I mean? All
Mm-hmm.
that, sacrifice and everything, that's in practice.
Absolutely.
That's in practice. I mean, what a football game for you was on a Saturday, you said?
Yeah.
So you got practice Monday, you got practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you got your pregame. You know what I mean? Like, let's go.
Yeah, if you've taken care of business during the week, the game's actually, it's just natural.
Yeah.
It's just natural. Like,
Right.
Turn it up, man. It's game time. Turn it up. Turn it up. I've been turning it up all week.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that was always my mentality.
Yeah. And it's like whenever I get, specifically talking about my kids that I train.
Yeah.
It's giving me chills. They go, and not them specifically, but I'll hear, hey, your kid did this. They won this. They won a Valley Championship. They won an MVP. And I'm like, I ain't surprised. They're in here 3 times a week. Right. They're out there practicing. They're getting the lessons. They're going to the coaching for the school. Like, they're getting everything. They're crossing off all the X's and O's. And I guarantee if you ask them, they ain't surprised either. Right. They put in the work.
Right.
They put in that hard work.
Absolutely.
So, for them to be rewarded, good. Good. They deserve it.
Yeah.
They deserve it. And so do those parents, for all the sacrifices that they made for them to get to that point. Gosh, that gets me fired up.
Oh, I know.
Man. You know what I
I'm
mean?
with you, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's those things like I was talking to someone the other day, and it's like it was something I said, I'm not proud, right? I expected it. I expect that. I'm not going to be proud and celebrate something I expected. Like, I put the work and I expected it.
There's a standard.
There's a standard. There's an expectation to meet. We met the expectation, but there's more work to do. I think you got to maybe reflect back every once in a while. Like, okay, I did that. All right. But then it's like, turn the head. We got work to do still. Okay. That was expected. I put the work and I knew I could achieve that. So yeah, I mean, I'm like, I'm happy I accomplished it, but there's still more work to be done. It's like that potential you guys talked about. Oh yeah. It just keeps going.
Somebody's always going to be climbing up that hill right behind you. You know what I mean? And I just have, I have so much respect for you, man. It's incredible. You know what I mean? After sitting down and talking to you and hearing a little bit more of your thought process, growing up currently, and it's just
fired up.
I don't think I've ever done this before with anybody. You know what I mean? Like, this is, like I said, I got all kinds of chills, but Coach, this has been electrifying for me. Like, I really appreciate being able to sit down with you and talk like this with somebody, you know what I mean, that's been there, done that. And I can't tell you how grateful I am to have this opportunity to sit down with you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, likewise. And, I'll keep saying it. It's just I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and just, all the thousands of kids, students, and athletes you've been able to contribute to and impact, right? And you've had a huge impact on me, my sister, my brother, my family.
Same.
And I want to thank you for that. And man, you embody it. You, like I said, you walk the walk. You don't just talk about it, you do it.
Accept it. Accept it. I know you don't give yourself.
Well, I appreciate
but
that.
Accept it.
Yeah. All those things you talk about, like, I've seen you do those things. You're not just on here saying, talking about them. And thousands of kids could vouch for that. So thank you. I wish we could talk here all day for hours and hours. And
Yeah, so I mean,
been a treat,
gosh,
been a
that-
privilege.
I'm the honored one. I want to tell you right now, I was nervous coming on. I still am. I mean, I do this with the grace of God, and I walk lightly. But when I was playing, I had a mindset, and that's a little bit of it, and we only scratched the surface. I mean, you guys know that. Talking to people, I mean, we could spend hours and hours on what I did. I think I romanticized sports. I romanticized weight training. I daydreamed a lot. I mentally visualized. I had mental visualization a lot. I don't even know if kids do that. Lots of times now they're busy following someone else's life on TikTok or Instagram, and I don't even know what that is because I don't have any of that, and I don't want any of that stuff. I do email and text, and that's it with my own social media.
Right.
Not because I'm not against it or anything. I'm just saying that that's all I want to do. That's all I care to do. But I did all those things. I romanticized it, man. I wanted to play NFL. Like, you had to cut off, a finger to play in the NFL. But that wasn't in the cards for me size wise. I was probably the size of a decent inside backer, but didn't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm honored that you guys had me on. Again, I was nervous, and I do this humbly. And if I offended anyone, I apologize. But you guys are the future. This gym is fantastic. I walk in here, I don't feel like I'm in Porterville anymore. This is special. You're a special educator. You're a special teacher. You guys are the future. Just please keep doing what you're doing. Get good things out there to people. And like you said, kids, just work hard. Organize.
faith and hard work.
Ask questions. If something goes wrong, go seek out help, young folks. Go seek out help so we can help you, man.
Yeah.
Right.
We want to help you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't hold it in. If you do something wrong, you make a mistake, come see one of you. See one of us.
Yeah.
Right.
Being vulnerable
See your
is one
parents.
of the greatest strengths. One of the greatest strengths.
And I appreciate people who are. You can get close to them. It's hard to get close to people that won't share their vulnerabilities.
Exactly. Yeah, and that goes in a lot of relationships, not just
Absolutely.
an athlete.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. I'm sad to close this up,
Yeah,
but
the chills are still going strong.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Again, it's my pleasure. I'm honored, and I think you guys are scraping the barrel when you came to me.
Not
No,
in
this
the
is one
least
of-
bit.
I didn't give you much to work with.
I got to do gym quote, so I'm more than happy.
No, you're being
Well,
you're being humble.
I'm going to give you these as well.
No, hey, we'll get some copies of those. I want to share those with some of my athletes.
And again, I encourage
students.
you guys to do that. When something's on your mind, you feel passionate about, write it down. Write it down and start scribbling.
Yeah.
And then you can make it make sense a little bit. Some of it, mine still doesn't make sense. I've been working on it for 20 years, but it was things that I didn't want to forget how I felt at that time.
The great thing about all this is, with this being uploaded, posted, these messages are there forever.
Yep.
And your legacy, our legacies, hopefully get to continue being shared for a long time to come. So
Yes.
thank you.
Well, I'm honored. And
Thank you
again,
again.
it's only by the grace of God.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Amen.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Coach.
Woo! I tell you what, you guys are good.
Very nice.
You guys are good, man. I mean I am so impressed. It takes me a while to get up.
Ooh, we gotta get those hips going.
Oh,
Appreciate
boy,
it.
I tell you, I appreciate it. I was nervous and.